Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode number 212 of Ref the District. I'm the Stoner. That's Trev over there on your right, my left, here on Ref the District. No Nathan tonight. Nathan is going to be out for the next couple of weeks while he is getting going on a new play in his hometown there out in Oklahoma. So we wish him a lot of luck with that. But he's going to be around for some other content as well. So don't forget about all the other content we're doing. Really happy that everybody's here joining us on episode number 212. Let's get started. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as Trev's trying to get his camera to work and everything. It's going to be one of those nights. I just have a feeling it's going to be one of those situations tonight, but appreciate everybody who's already here. Lockdown's here. JG's here. Nathan, Yam, so on, and everybody is working their way in. And again, if you are watching, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and if you are listening on an audio platform, make sure you leave a rating and review so that we get our content out there to as many people as possible. We've got an awesome show. Let me first apologize again for my background and what's going on. I've got computer issues that I'm working out. So you're going to have all this glare in my glasses for the time being until I get that situation figured out. But make no mistake, let me move this until Trev gets back. Make no mistake that until that happens, when I get the new setup, it's still going to be amazing content because of what we're going to talk about and the participation of you, everybody who is here in the live chat, and when you leave those comments as we go along. But awesome show that we've got tonight. Later on, we're going to go in the cool down. That's later on. In the cool down, we're going to talk a little bit about Jayden Daniels' rank amongst all the other quarterbacks. Maybe it's a little recency effect with Patrick Mahomes, but is he now maybe a little bit better than Patrick Mahomes? Or would you take him over Patrick Mahomes? He had a better year than Patrick Mahomes did, although Mahomes, of course, got one game further than Washington did, Patrick Mahomes did. So, but save those questions that you've got for that for later on in the cool down. Then also in the game, we're going to talk all about what Washington has to do to keep up with the Eagles. Because obviously the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and there's a lot that Washington needs to do to get to that level. Because I've got some great nuggets about the Eagles and how they've gotten to this point. And guess what? They're not going anywhere. This is not a one-hit wonder for the Eagles. So Washington is really going to have a lot of work to do to get there. That's later. Again, get your comments and get your hot takes ready for when we talk about that. But here right now in the warm-up, we're going to talk about the free agents that Washington has and what they need to do to figure out which free agents they're going to re-sign of their own free agents. Later on, we're going to talk about all those other free agents that are out there and available. The Ronnie Stanleys of the world, the T. Higgins of the world. But right now we're talking about Washington's own players that they have to re-sign. That's right here in the warm-up. So get your questions and your comments about that going right now. Again, I see everybody who's here. Uptown Dre is also dropped in. Again, appreciate everybody who's here. Let's talk about what Washington has to do in terms of their own free agents. Because you remember last year, they had a 61% turnover of their roster before week 1, which was not only the biggest in the league by far, because the average is somewhere around 20, 25, maybe even up to 30% turnover. That's even a little high. 61% roster turnover for the Commanders going from last year into this season. And that was before they cut Forbes. That was before they cut Mathis. That was before they cut Jamin Davis, right? So you see when Adam Peters in his initial press conference, when someone asked him about the roster, and he had that pause because he didn't want to say this roster stinks, But that pause said everything about what was going on with this organization in terms of the players that they had on the current roster. Well, it's not going to be a whole lot different going into this next year. They're going to have another huge turnover in the roster with 28. Right now, it's 28 free agents that they have on their roster. That, again, is the most in the NFL going into the offseason. So they're going to have another huge roster turnover. And so let's look at those free agents and talk about whether or not you, me, everybody wants to have these guys back on the roster. The thing is with these guys is they signed 1-year deals for a reason, most of them. And I'm going to bring up the roster right now because it's interesting to look at the free agents. And some of them are free agents that they signed to 1-year deals. And we're talking about the Wagners and Mariotas and Chins and Farrells and Michael Davis and Zach Ertz and so on and so forth. As Trev is working his way back in. Trev, let me let me get this thing fixed back up. Trev's back. Trev is back in the house. Wonder, can you hear me, Trev? Trev's struggling over there. He's got more computer problems than Stoner does, but he'll get it. He'll start to get it figured out. I don't think he can hear me. So right now he'll just kind of hang out there and look and laugh because I don't even think he can hear me. Make sure you all hit him up, maybe on Twitter or something, and say, "Hey, Trev, pay attention. We got a show going on right now." So there he goes again. Well, he's having some major computer issues. We'll get that figured out. But again, when it's just me, I got nobody to challenge me on my hot takes. So let's talk about these free agents. As I was saying, there's a lot of guys who signed these 1-year deals. But you also have to think about some of their draft picks that their contracts are expiring. Let's look at some of these guys. Derek Forrest, John Bates are two of those draft picks that their contract is up. De'Ami Brown is another one of those guys. Benjamin St-Juste, right? These are all guys who are on their rookie contracts and they're expiring. And then we got to look again at those guys who they signed to those 1-year deals in the offseason. And if you haven't checked out the video that I did talking about the top 5 guys that I think that they should return, I'll give them to you right now, real quick, and we can talk about them as we go along. Number 5, Nick Bellore. I think he needs to come back. He's my number 5 guy on that list. He needs to come back. He was awesome on special teams. Number 1 in the league in tackles and assists on special teams. My number 4 guy is Cornelius Lucas. He's getting older, but he's the perfect swing tackle. This is the kind of guy you need on this team, the swing tackle. He's not flashy. He's not pricey. He's not awesome. He's just a guy you need, and he's a good locker room guy as well. Number 3, Jeremy Chin. I saw that Yam is stumping for Chin for real. Let's see. Where is that comment? I saw it right here. He's all in 100%. JG is 100%. Wagner and Chin are easy choices. My number 2 guy, this is most important, is Marcus Mariota. And if you heard me talking about it before, I was 100% against the Marcus Mariota signing to begin with. However, I was wrong. I was so wrong on Mariota because he was exactly what this team and Jayden Daniels specifically needed for a backup quarterback. And when called upon, he performed. In the 2 games that he came in, one was for the injured injured Jayden Daniels in the Carolina game, and he was awesome in that game. And then in the second half of the Dallas game, when they just decided to sit Daniels because of wanted to save him from injury, he was awesome and led him to the game-winning touchdown with a couple seconds left on the clock. So Mariota did exactly what they needed to. He's a great mentor and all of that. So that's the number 2 guy. And of course, Bobby Wagner needs to come back. His PFF grades were awesome. His numbers were awesome. His locker room presence was awesome. He was 2nd team All-Pro. Forget about Pro Bowl. 2nd team All-Pro. So I think he needs to come back as well. I don't even think did I mention Chin as my number 3 guy? I think I just skipped right over him. Chin is my number 3 guy because I thought he solidified the back end. Last year they had 7 or it was 8 plays that went for more than 40-yard touchdown passes. This year they had 1. So he did a great job back there. So those are my 5. But let's talk about the draft picks. Are there any draft picks with expiring contracts that you want to keep? And let's talk about Chris Rodriguez Jr. is actually one of them, but he's not a completely unrestricted free agent, I don't believe. So let's kind of skip him. But let's talk about Derek Forrest, John Bates, and De'Ami Brown and Benjamin St-Juste. Is anybody out there stumping for any of those guys? And I know that nobody really wants St-Juste to come back. I get it. Nobody really cares necessarily about Derek Forrest because he couldn't break that rotation hardly at all this year. But what about De'Ami Brown and what about John Bates? John Bates was what, a 5th rounder? If I'm not mistaken, you might have to remind me. And De'Ami, of course, was a 3rd rounder. And he really came on the second half of the season, especially into the playoffs, and really showed up in the playoffs. His season this year, his numbers this year were better than his previous 3 years combined. But he did have some fumbling issues. Fumbled twice in the playoffs and once, I believe, in the regular season. And look, he wasn't reliable. He couldn't break the rotation, or he couldn't break past Noah Brown and Zacchaeus. And even when Crowder was healthy, Crowder was in there over him, who caught the game-winning touchdown against the Eagles in that second Eagles game. So I'm not really sure on De'Ami Brown, but I do have some ground rules for this here real quick, because we're going to try to bring Trev back in. Is Trev? Everything working?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm back. What's going on?
Trev is back. I've been talking so much, and what's good about it though, Trev, is nobody can challenge me on my hot takes. Right? they can type it, but I can choose to not show it too, right? If I want to. So nobody's here. But basically, Trev, we've been talking about our own free agents on which guys we want to sign and which ones we don't. Or maybe not that we don't want to re-sign, or maybe we're ready for them to move on. But I've got 2 ground rules on this, and this is for you and this is for everybody also here's in the chat. The first ground rule is this, and let me find my notes. Here's the phrase you can't use. You can't say, well, Adam Peters knows what he's doing, so whatever he decides is good by me. No. We're the GMs, okay? We're deciding. So there's no saying, well, Adam Peters, let him cook or whatever. No, we have to decide. That's the first one. The other one is you can't say, well, if he wants to come back on a team-friendly deal, right? If he wants to come back on a cheap contract, because guess what? That ain't happening. They don't do that.
Right.
We're going to have to assume that all of these guys are going to get a better deal than what they had this past year. And you have to decide if that guy's worth it. All right? So those are the ground rules. So here's the 4 guys who have expiring contracts because they were rookies and their contracts are up. And that's Derek Forrest, John Bates, Benjamin St-Juste, and De'Ami Brown. Are you bringing back Derek Forrest?
No.
Are you bringing back John Bates?
No.
Are you bringing back Benjamin St-Juste?
No.
And are you bringing back De'Ami? What was that? A yes?
Yes.
I think there's some audio with your headphones.
Oh, here we go.
Sometimes it's working, but sometimes it's popping. But De'Ami is one of those guys who's right on the edges. And as we were talking about before you came in, Trev, is that De'Ami did come on at the end of the year. especially in the playoffs. And his season totals this year were better than the previous 3 years combined. That's how good of a year he had, relatively speaking. However, the other side of it is that he had 2 fumbles in the playoffs, and he couldn't beat out Noah Brown. He couldn't beat out Olamide Zaccheaus. He couldn't beat out Jamison Crowder when Jamison Crowder was healthy. All those guys were picked to play more than Diami did. So what does that say about Diami and whether or not he's fit for this team? He's going to get offers from other teams. I can promise you that. He is an NFL wide receiver. He's not like one of those guys that is not going to get a contract. So are you bringing back Diami on like a 3-year, $14 million deal?
3 years, $14 million. So that's a lot.
They only have 2 receivers under contract right now, and that's Terry McLaurin and Luke McCaffrey. That's it. Everybody else is a free agent.
Yes. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Diami Brown back. It seems like he was getting more comfortable in the offense as the season went on. Yeah, he had those mistakes in the playoffs, but he hasn't been there before. I'm gonna make that excuse for him, but still, it's not an excuse in its own self. But I like Diami Brown. Like you said, he had a career year with Cliff Kingsbury this year, and Cliff chose to stay and work with this offense some more. So sky's the limit for Diami Brown in this offense. So yeah, I'll keep him.
All right. So lockdown is no, and no for all 4. He even said that he had all of 44 catches. Big deal, right? Troy is in the all no's. Code Talker wants to keep Diami. At worst, he can be wide receiver 3, as Trev's audio is still popping over there. Yeah, he can't. I think you gotta get like plug-in headphones or something, because those things are popping. And Jersey Slim says keep Diami Brown young and cheap. He's definitely young. I don't know how cheap he's going to be, relatively speaking. Cheap for sure. So those are the guys. Those are the young guys who are on their expiring rookie deals. But now let's talk about the guys who are free agents, who are on 1-year deals or just regular contracts that are expiring. And we're not going to go through every single guy, but let's talk about the names. Are you bringing Tress Way back? I know, right? Because Tress is the one guy that I'm going to allow you to break one of the rules, which is the rule that bringing him back on a team-friendly deal, because I think he's a guy who would come back on a team-friendly deal.
Same. I think so too.
Yeah, because he's been with the team the longest of anybody. He's been a captain. He's been a great locker room guy. He's performed as well as anybody. So I think that's a guy that you bring back. So let's just say Tress Way coming back. Santiago says he has to come back. TJ says he needs to retire here. I get all of that. So Doug says yes on Tress. Sounds like a campaign slogan. And then as Lockdown says, punters are always on team-friendly deals. All right, Trev, I need you to give me some of a couple of guys here, and I need you to break it down for me. Okay. Are you bringing back Noah Brown?
I am not bringing back Noah Brown.
Noah Brown came here on a $1.2 million deal.
Okay.
And basically when he left, when he got hurt and was out, people freaked out because, oh my God, we lost our number 2 receiver. That's how good Jayden Daniels is. He made Noah Brown look like a Pro Bowler almost. Why are you not bringing Noah Brown back? What did he do wrong?
Injury history, man. It's just he came to our team with that history, and he's going to leave with our team with that history. I'm sorry he had that season-ending injury with us, but kind of expected that from at least some point, that he would get some kind of injury throughout the season, and he did. and that's been the story of his career. He's been on like 3 or 4 teams already because of injury. So yeah, no, he can go.
Noah Brown is 29 years old, as opposed to Diami being only 26 years old. So
Yeah.
he's a better player than Diami is, but he's an older player than Diami is.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I mean, Diami hasn't had injury issues.
Nope.
But Noah certainly has.
Yep.
All right, you're not bringing back Noah Brown.
No, sir.
I get it. I understand it. All right. Are you bringing
Mhm.
back, let's get to some big names. Are you bringing back Dante Fowler Jr.? Now, Fowler is 31 years old and made 3.25 million. So I'm asking you, Trev, are you bringing back Dante Fowler Jr.? And don't give me if he comes back on a team-friendly deal, if he comes back on the cheap. Are you bringing back Dante Fowler Jr.?
No, I'm not. He seems like more of a situational pass rusher, a third down pass rusher, which is not bad. That's what Ryan Kerrigan became later on in his career. But we need all 3 down edges, or someone else who can play all 3 downs. And I know he had double-digit sacks, but he also had a couple of crucial penalties on roughing the passer and some momentum stopping spots for us in a couple of games this year. So yeah, I mean, he's nice. I know he's good with Dan Quinn. He's been with Dan Quinn since Florida pretty much, but he's also been a journeyman as well. And like I said, he's a situational pass rusher, and we need starters on the edge and more dominant performance on the edge. So no.
Yeah.
But
But
if it's a depth signing, yes. I didn't say team friendly. I didn't say
right.
But
No,
if
I
it's a
think
depth signing, yes. But it shouldn't be a top priority. It should, yeah.
I think Fowler's he earned himself a payday.
Yeah.
Not a massive payday, but I think he earned himself a 2 or 3 year deal somewhere. And I'm not a Dante Fowler Jr. guy. I'm not. I don't think he plays the run well at all. I think that was a huge issue with this team stopping the run. He's not good at setting the edge because he's trying to get those sacks. And he is often the problem in the run game. I get that he had double-digit sacks. And there were some very productive sacks. He had the pick 6 against Tennessee, I think it was, or maybe it was Carolina. I can't remember. And he did some good things, but he's not a guy that is going to help this run defense, especially at his age. So I'm moving on from Dante Fowler Jr. If you just watch the first play, the first offensive play of the NFC Championship game against Philadelphia when Saquon Barkley ran for 60 yards, that was 100%. Well, I won't say 100%. That was 90% on Dante Fowler Jr. because he crashed in and didn't set that edge. And there was that hole there that Bobby Wagner couldn't get to because Bobby Wagner's not as fast as he used to be. And then Saquon did the rest and made the other guys look bad. But the point is that hole should have never been there because Dante Fowler didn't set that edge and force him inside to where all of your beef is, all of your defensive tackles and linebackers are. I'm moving on.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's fine. If you're an edge rusher, you don't set the edge, then what are you?
Yeah, you're a rusher.
Yeah.
All right. Trev, we got a couple of more here before we move on.
Okay.
Marcus Mariota.
Cool.
First of all, what did you think of him this year? And would you bring him back? Now, let me look at his specifics. He made $6 million and he's 32 years old.
Yeah. Do it again. I mean, all season long, that's all you kept hearing from Jayden Daniels and Dan Quinn was how crucial and important Mariota's been to Jayden Daniels in the locker room and off the field. I feel like he came in when his name was called and did exactly what he's supposed to do at the position he's playing, which is backup quarterback. And he did that great. He led the team down. He beat the Cowboys. He came in against Carolina and finished the stopping on them, and then here and there. So, and he's great for Jayden Daniels' growth in this league. So why not? Yes, I'll resign him. Which is
I
crazy
would
because
too.
when we first signed him, I was like,
Oh, hated
what?
it.
And then the money, I was like, wait, what? Is it really a battle? But
Yeah.
they know more than us, obviously, and it shows.
Yeah. Yeah. And as Lockdown says here, that Mariota is probably going to get big offers from some teams that just need that bridge guy until they can get their guy. I mean, think of teams like Cleveland or even back to Tennessee, or the Giants or any of these teams, the Raiders. All of these teams need somebody, and they're not going to be able to draft their quarterback of the future this year because they don't have a high enough pick. And this is like a 1 or 2 QB draft, first round draft, right? So he's probably going to get 3 times that amount offers from some guys. So, but wait, now we can't hear you, Trev. Yeah.
I said, do you think he takes it? Do you think he still wants to be a starter in this league, or you think he's comfortable being on the winning organization, backing up Jayden Daniels?
There's no way, and let's just say Washington is able to offer him $10 million to be a backup. You're not turning down $18 million for $10 million, regardless. Even if it's the Eagles who have a Super Bowl and look to be contending for a long time, you're not turning down starter money for backup money, regardless of the situation. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I was just, just wondering.
All right, now the 2 biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is Zach Ertz.
Yep.
And I'll just give you my take real quick. And I said this on the top 5 list we put out earlier this week. In that, man, Zach Ertz was awesome this year. I think he had 66 catches in the regular season, 6 touchdowns. I don't even know how many more in the playoffs. He was exactly what Jayden Daniels needed. He needed that guy he could depend on who will be in the right spot at the right time and will catch the ball pretty much every time. He was awesome. But you drafted a guy in the second round to be Zach Ertz. And he's already spent a year as an understudy under Zach Ertz. Ben Sinnot needs to be on the field for 75% of the plays, not the 25% he was on the field. And it's not because they don't like Ben Sinnot, but it's because Zach Ertz was so good that they couldn't afford to have him off the field. So for me, I got to let Zach Ertz go. And I know Zach wants to be here. And he's even said he wishes he was 22 years old again so that he could play with Jayden Daniels for a long time because he had so much fun. He loved it. But look, he's going to be 35. This year was an outlier year in terms of injuries because he didn't have any. I believe he played in all 20 games. I'm letting Zach Ertz go. Trev?
I'm not. I'm bringing Zach Ertz back another year.
Yeah.
I'm letting John Bates go. I think the reason for lack of snaps last year for Ben Sinnott was one, he was a third round pick for us, 4th round pick.
Sinnott?
Yeah.
Oh no, that kid was 2nd round. That was a top 50
second
pick.
Round? Okay. All right, cool. So we got him. Didn't mean necessarily we have to play him last year, but we got him, so we didn't have nothing to worry about. But maybe he doesn't understand the playbook as well as we think. Maybe he's taking a longer time to develop. Maybe they have a different role for him. I don't know, but I think you do bring Zach Ertz back because if you let him go and you let John Bates go, that leaves you with Ben Sinnott, and then you go out and find somebody in the draft or free agency. You can still do that with John Bates gone, but I think you still bring back Zach Ertz just to keep that continuity going on with Jayden Daniels, get him more acclimated. You don't have to worry about Jayden Daniels learning another tight end techniques, his the way he plays, the way he moves, what routes he likes. Doesn't have to start chemistry over again with a brand new tight end. You still go get somebody to come play that John Bates role, maybe a little better than John Bates did, but I think you do insert Ben Sinnott a little bit more with Zach Ertz this year in the offense. Now we know what Cliff is capable of. Who knows what he's going to do with, another year under his belt, a whole offseason again. So bring Zach Ertz back for comfortability for Jayden Daniels. We just one more year and add another tight end to make it 3 in the room.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to be mad if they bring him back, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, he only made $3 million last year. I mean, you talk about investment. They got a ton of return on that investment.
Sure.
For $3 million and all the catches and touchdowns and the playoffs and staying healthy and all of that. So that part was awesome. So I'm not going to be mad if they bring him back. But I think it's important for the development of young Ben Sinnot. And again, second rounder, Trev, top 50 pick. I believe he was right around there. Maybe he was like 53 or something like that. You bring him, you need him to produce, and you need him to be that foundation that you're building in this organization. So I just need him on the field more. And maybe he does take Bates' role if Zach comes back. Quite possibly. But I need Ben Sinnot to be Zach Ertz, not John Bates. Right? I need Ben Sinnot to get 85 targets. And
you want Ben Sinnot's tight end 1.
Tight end 1. I want him out there for the majority of the plays, blocking and catching. That's me.
Okay. That's fine.
All right. So let's see. The last one, and that's Bobby Wagner. And Bobby Wagner, again, he was $6 million, $6.5 million. That's it. $6.5 million for 1 year. He's going to be 35, 36 years old. He led the team in tackles. I believe he was third in the league, somewhere in that in tackles. His PFF grades were off the charts. He's definitely lost a step, but his contribution in the locker room, on the field, he was everything. He was everything that this team needed. His relationship with Jayden Daniels, that kind of stuff cannot be overstated. So if it's me, I'm bringing Bobby Wagner back at $11 million.
Yeah, right? It's Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
JP Finley said he was talking to somebody, and he said the only thing that we could probably worry about.
You're popping now to the point we can't even hear you. It's just all popping. But he's fixing that. He's got some audio stuff. We're trying to fix that. So we know it's happening. So he's working on it. How about now? Better?
How about now? Better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Finish your thought.
You bring him back. I saw on Twitter where JP Finley was talking to someone, and he said that the only concern with that is if Pete Carroll in Vegas wants Bobby Wagner to come over there and play for him, establish that culture. But I don't see Bobby Wagner wanting to play the role of just going to a locker room and setting the culture there and then leaving to go to a different locker room. I think he really bought in with this team. I think he really bought in with Dan Quinn and what AP are trying to do, and getting a taste. We went to the NFC Championship this year with a bunch of different bodies, and I think it developed in such a brotherhood that Bobby wants to end his career either here or he wants to go out winning, and I think he wants to do that with this organization. I think he wants to try it all over again with another organization from the bottom like he's doing now. So it's great for the locker room, great for the young guys no matter what position they play. You definitely bring somebody like Bobby Wagner back if you have the chance. I think they do that.
Yeah, I sure hope they do. And we're going to complain about some of his play on the field because, again, he is a little bit slower and all that. But the risk reward, the reward is so much higher than the risk that you have of putting a middle linebacker out there who's a little bit slower than he used to be. So I'm all in on Bobby Wagner. He's my number one guy that they absolutely need to bring back.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to switch topics here as we move into the game. And this topic is all going to be all about what Washington needs to do to catch the Eagles. And that ain't going to be easy, my friends. That's going to be a tough task. And so we're going to break it all down on specifically what they need to do, how Philadelphia was built, and how Washington can get there. So we're going to do all of that here coming up in the game. Welcome back to episode number 212 of Ref the District. I'm the Stoner. That is Trev over there on the side. Nathan is out for this week and the next couple of weeks on our live show, because we're always live Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube and Facebook. But he'll be back for some extra content throughout the week as we go along and we get into this off season. And believe it or not, the off season doesn't last very long. So we're going to have some awesome content as we go along. Make sure you hit that like and make sure you hit that subscribe button, as we're going to talk all about what Washington needs to do to figure out how to beat these freaking Eagles in this division, because it ain't going to be easy. So we're going to talk all about that here in the game. And look, Trev, I'm going to give you a couple of nuggets. This is not the Stoners nuggets that we normally do, but I want to talk about Philadelphia here, okay? Because Philadelphia is now the standard. Philadelphia is the team, is the organization that everybody looks up to. And I'm going to make a quick adjustment real quick. There we go. As Trev does some more work. Look, Philadelphia is the standard now. They're the organization that everybody has to look up to, because they've built a powerhouse of a football team and they've done it the right way. I'm going to give you some nuggets. Howie Roseman, as I've done the research from halfway through the season, looking into the Eagles and studying them, and it's amazing what Howie Roseman has done there in his time in Philadelphia. He's been there since 2010. And here's a nugget for you. In 2014, Howie Roseman was demoted from general manager when Philadelphia brought in Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly was the hot guy, and everybody said he's going to be the greatest coach ever, and they gave him full control of the roster, and he got demoted. And of course, that blew up. And Howie Roseman got promoted back to GM in 2015-ish. He built that team that won the Super Bowl. And then he rebuilt the team into 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. Think about that for a second as we bring Trev back in. You're still popping, and I can't hear you either. Yeah, we can't hear anything but pops right now. We see your mouth moving and all that, but as he works on that. But it's amazing what he's done, what Howie Roseman has done, and how he's built the team. If you look at the team, it's almost it's the model organization. And it's not a team that went tanked and had to start all over after that Super Bowl in 2018, I think it was, 2018, 2019. He just figured out a way to move draft picks and bring in key free agents and do it the right way. Think about on offense. Think about the draft picks they have on offense. Their left tackle, their left guard, their center, their right tackle, their tight end 1, their one of their 2 receivers, their quarterback, all draft picks. The only guys that are not draft picks are a free agent at right guard in Mekhi Becton, their running back Saquon Barkley, and a receiver A.J. Brown. And they're doing exactly what every organization should do. Build your foundation through the draft and your foundation up front. Let's not forget that that Jason Kelce retired last year, Hall of Fame center. They just plug in Cam Jurgens. They just draft a guy. He's a rookie. And all of a sudden he's a stud. And then they fill those pieces, those little pieces, with trades or free agent signings. They traded for A.J. Brown. They signed Saquon Barkley. And the way they get some of these draft picks, again, they're picking high in the draft, not because they sucked, but because Howie Roseman is great at making deals. And he gets these higher draft picks. And think about their defensive line. Their defensive ends, both of their defensive ends, and 3 of their defensive tackles, all draft picks. Their middle linebacker, draft pick. Their Zach Bond was a free agent, and he turned into an all-pro. Their 2 of their 3 corners are draft picks in Quinyon Mitchell and DeJean, both rookies this year. Darius Slay was a trade, or he was a draft. I mean, a free agent. I can't remember. And then Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was with Philly, left, came back, and solidified their back end. Man, what an amazing job he's done. And also think about Jalen Hurts, that draft pick that they made a year and a half after they signed Carson Wentz to a big deal. And they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round and just seamlessly moved him in. That's the standard that Washington needs to get to. And let's see how Trev's working here. All right, Trev, what do you think? Anything bad? Now I don't hear you. Nope, still don't hear you.
What?
Oh, now I hear you.
Now you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay.
So anyway, I've been going on for the last few minutes about the Eagles and how they've been built. They built their foundation through the draft, where about 75% of their starters are from the draft, and then they filled in with some key trades and free agent pickups. But it's mostly about the draft. And it's not like they've been tanking and doing terrible to get high draft picks. They've just got a GM who can figure out how to make trades, and he can trade back. You think about Devontae Smith. I believe they had the 6th pick, and they wanted Devontae Smith, and they traded back, and then they traded back again all the way to 12, and then they traded back up to 10 to get Devontae Smith so that the Cowboys couldn't get him. That's the kind of things that he does. Jalen Carter was a top 10 pick. Jordan Davis was a top 5 pick, I believe. Think about what they're doing, and Washington needs to get to that point. So what does Washington need to do, Trev, in this particular offseason to try and close that gap between where they are now, where Washington is now, and where Philadelphia is, which is they're not going anywhere, Trev?
No, they're not.
How does Washington what does Washington need to do to get there?
Follow the blueprint. Draft. The game is one of the trenches. I don't know how you go about doing this, but we need to get a better offensive line and we need to get a better defensive line. That way, the secondary linebackers don't have to be nearly as skilled, but they can look like they're good players because you have a great pass rush. I mean, the most alarming stat coming out of the Super Bowl game was the Eagles had a pass rush rate of like 42%, and they only sent 4 people, which was their D linemen. They had no blitzes. Yeah, I know. My earbuds are trash. It'll be better next time. But
zero
blitzes, and the rush came from all 4 guys. That's it. And they've been doing that all year. And the reason why Saquon Barkley had 2,000 yards was their offensive line all year. So I think that's what we have to do. We got to make our draft priority or focus, I think, more on the defensive line and the offensive line of sides of the ball, rather than going out and get a bunch of young secondary players or young offensive weapons. You need to build your trenches through the draft. Guys that'll be here for longer than 3 years, that can give you that 5th-year option, that can grow and make their career here and start off pretty well. So, yeah, just draft the trenches or sign free agents in the trenches. I don't know how you get it done, but I know AP will get it done. But it's got to be defensive line, offensive line should be the focus of this year's offseason requirements.
All right, well, let me challenge you on the offensive line here, okay? Because from last year to this year, or, from 2 seasons ago to this last season, they changed out 60% of their line. They changed out 3 guys.
Yeah.
3 out of the 5. The only ones they kept were Wiley at right tackle and Cosme at right guard.
Yeah.
So they brought in Biotish at center. They brought in Allegretti at left guard, and they drafted Coleman, and they had Coleman / Lucas over there for a while, and then it became Coleman. I mean, look, Sam Cosme's not going to play this coming season, most likely.
Probably not.
Andrew Wiley's under contract for this coming season. Biotish ain't going anywhere. 3-year deal. Allegretti, 3-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Coleman, a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
So my challenge is make the offensive line better. How are you going to do that? Who's moving, and who are you going to replace on there?
I mean, I guess since the left side seems pretty well intact, you got to find somebody to replace Wiley. He's got to go. I think you got to let him go, and he'll that'll give us some more money too. And somebody's got to replace the guard position that Cosme was filling, because, like you said, he's not going to be able to play this year. So I don't know if you draft. I don't know what the draft looks like for O linemen, because we're used to looking at this months ago, but now since we played in January, it hasn't really been a focus. But yeah, I guess you just got to go out and hit the streets and see what's out there free agency wise, because we can't afford to have Coleman on the line second year and then 2 rookies on the right side with Biotish and Allegretti. Yeah, our offensive line was better, but we ain't built to where we could hide the deficiencies by having 3 rookies on the starting offensive line. So yeah, just go out and see if you can make a trade or 2 or get somebody in the free agency to fill those 2 holes on the right side of the ball, because, like you said, Wiley's on the contract, but he just ain't.
He's got a dead cap number that's fairly low, so I'm pretty confident that they're going to move on from Andrew Wiley.
I think so too.
And what they may end up doing is moving Coleman all the way over to the right side.
Okay.
And then going and getting a left tackle, a legit left tackle. Ronnie Stanley's out there. I like me some Ronnie Stanley.
I do too.
There are a couple guys up there. Some folks in here are talking about Cam Robinson, Walker Little, guys like that. But I like some of these free agents that are out there, and I like some of these guys on the line. But I just don't see the production is not there.
No.
Jayden Daniels made this line look decent.
Yeah, right? You're right. Yeah.
But when they needed to run the ball, they really couldn't do it.
No.
So they have to figure that out. So I think Wiley's gone. Cosme obviously is going to be gone at least most of the year. So I don't know what you're going to do in terms of, you can't draft a guy high at right guard if Cosme is going to be back starting in 26, because you just signed Cosme to a big deal.
Exactly.
And I don't know that they're going to get rid of Allegretti. And then you got to figure out what to do with Coleman, whether it's maybe moving him to right guard. I don't know. But they've got to figure something out. And that Sam Cosme situation, I think, is really going to mess with things, because you can't find a long-term right guard. Right? You can't go out and pay a guy, a free agent, a 3-year deal to play right guard.
No, you can't. You got to find somebody with that 1-year vet minimum, or
and then that's not a long-term solution. So I'm a little concerned about that part of it. But they found their center, right? I like Allegretti.
I do too.
I'm not sure that he is the answer. And so if you're going to beef that up, that's great. But I don't know what they're going to do with Coleman either. I don't know that he's a left tackle. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. It's going to be difficult. But again, this is a copycat league. You saw what Philadelphia did on their offensive line and what they're able to do. And then you saw what Kansas City did not do on the offensive line, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you say, we got to figure out how to get better, like you said, in the trenches. And I'm glad people are finally starting to come over to my side, when I've been saying for the last 4 years, look, the football is won at the line of scrimmage.
It really is.
You can have great skill position players, and that will cover up a lot of your issues. And Patrick Mahomes showed that this year.
Yep.
He was able to cover up so many of their issues on the line. He got them all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But then they got exposed. Those lines got exposed, right?
Exactly.
So then you go to the other side, right? And again, you've got, think about this for a second. You've got Dorrance Armstrong, Deron Payne, Johnny Newton, John Allen, and you don't necessarily have Dante Fowler, but if you wanted him, how are you going to fix that? the 30th ranked rush defense in the NFL. How are you going to fix that specifically? Who's gone from there?
You're going to have to hurt some feelings. And I think it's
Yeah.
going to come down between Daron Payne or John Allen. I don't think we could afford to lose both, but if they can somehow make it happen and find some better replacements, I'm all for it, obviously. But as of right now, one of them has to go. And a lot of people are pointing to John Allen. A lot of people are pointing to Daron Payne. I honestly would much rather keep John Allen just for locker room aspect as well. Payne, man, you saw what he could do without John Allen, which is nothing. He just didn't look like he was all in. I know in every interview he was like really excited about the coaching staff and excited about where the franchise is going because he's been here through the rough times too. He's been here for a long time, but he did get paid when a different regime was here for an extension. But that play did not result on the field. He hasn't had double-digit sacks except I think one time in his career with us. He barely reached 5 sacks with us this past year, I think. And we're paying a lot of money for somebody who was a part of that Alabama wall that we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not panning out. The production's not there. So I think you keep John Allen. I mean, the dude came back from a torn pec who, for a lot of people, that's a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
Which it was for him too when it first happened, but he fought his way back because we were winning football games. He wanted to be a part of it. I like that. I don't really necessarily would see that from Daron Payne. I don't know him personally. He probably would come back and play for a chance, but
to be fair, Trev, Daron Payne, when he missed, I forget which game, maybe it was the NFC Championship game he missed, but that was like the first game he's missed in like 5 years.
I know, which is awesome, but the production in that 5 years is like I'm really thankful and grateful that you're durable because NFL stands for not for long, but you didn't do anything to deserve that extension. I mean, you had the 11 sack season, but then after that it's been like, well, I got paid, let me just be out here and get some highlights in it and ride this NFC championship train that we had last year. So if someone's got to go, Daron Payne. I like John Allen a lot better. I think people game plan more for John Allen than Daron Payne, but that's just me. So Daron Payne got to go. Bring in Johnny Newton and go out there and get you a couple of veteran guys that can replace Dante Fowler. I like Dorrance Armstrong. Dan Quinn likes Dorrance Armstrong. He started coming along as the season went on too. I think he's getting his feet wet more now. So yeah, see you Daron Payne, Johnny Newton time, and somebody else.
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me. I've always been a defender of Payne and Allen, both of them, because guys, defensive tackles like them don't kind of come around very often. And they're very good football players. They're very good defensive tackles. They make a lot of money against your cap. Mm-hmm. And as you said, the production is not necessarily there. It's not like we can say, they're building and working towards being this great tandem and this great run stuffing defense. They've been together for like 6 seasons.
Yes.
I think Allen was drafted in like 17 and Payne in 18 or something around there. Maybe it's 18 and whatever. They've been around together for a long time.
Yeah.
And they've gotten their second contracts, and I think deservedly so. But I think they've just gotten to the point to where you shouldn't be the 30th ranked rush defense, regardless of not necessarily having the ends to help out.
Right.
You should still be doing something better than the 30th ranked rush defense.
I totally wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. And so maybe it is time to move on from one of them. John Allen's dead cap is only $6 million if you just decide to cut him.
Yeah.
Which may be a thing, but Daron Payne you can't cut. He's got a almost $26 million dead cap, so he would have to be a trade. And I don't know that you're getting a lot for Daron Payne. He's probably going to have knee surgery this offseason, so
But I mean, you said we might not get a lot, but our front office can turn that not a lot into something
fair,
which they're known to do. So I really don't care what we get for this point. If we have to trade Daron Payne for a 6th or a 5th or a 7th, take it.
Wow, you'd give him up for like a 7th rounder?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that, but I get it. It's it's a lot of dead cap there for Daron Payne. So I'm not sure that you're going to want to just cut him, but try and get something for him. Or, I mean, look, they've played beside a lot of pretty darn good other defensive tackles. When you talk about, I mean, going all the way back to like Ioannidis and who's the guy who ended up in Buffalo this year?
Tim Settle.
Tim Settle, right? And Fedarian Mathis, even though obviously he was cut, but still. And then Johnny Newton this year. And still the production is just not there.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of time to move on from that experiment, I think.
It is.
And I hate to do it because I like both of them. And I think they both deserved the second contracts that they got. And but here we are at that point where that's got to be remade up the middle and on the edge.
Yeah.
They've got to do something at one of those edge. They've got to put the fear of God in these opposing quarterbacks. And Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong don't do that.
No.
They don't.
They don't.
They have to get that position to occupy double teams, right? And free up. Because if you look at Jonathan Allen's double team numbers,
it's a lot.
He's top 5 in defensive tackles in the league.
That's why you keep him.
Yeah, and the reason you're double teaming him is because you don't need to double team Dante Fowler. You don't need to double team Dorrance Armstrong.
No,
right?
Not at all.
And so they decide, offenses decide, we're going to double team John Allen and take our chances with everybody else. And that's worked. So if you get a guy on the edge who not only can stop the run, who can set that edge, but can put the fear of God in these quarterbacks, then you free up Jonathan Allen as well. And maybe Daron Payne if he's still here. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. You've got to get a scary defensive edge rusher to help everybody in the defense, Trev.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it earlier. You've got to get a guy to do that so that your mediocre secondary can cover guys better because they don't have to cover them for 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money out there. The bulk of your money should go in the trenches this year. That way, if the money you do spend on the outside, it'll be better. Because to be honest, nobody thought Cooper DeJean would have that year this year. Nobody thought Quinion Mitchell would have this year. And honestly, Terry McLaurin sunned Quinion Mitchell, I think the second game of the game we won. He really didn't show me much, but he looked great because of the pass rush. Zach Bond was a 1-year sign last year, and he's a Pro Bowler this year.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Smith was there last year. Nolan Smith was there last year, but didn't hear much about him last year. They lost him to Kobe Dean this year, who's supposed to be the guy, and it didn't really matter because they had Zach Bond, and then Brandon Graham came back. And that's because you had Jalen Carter, that Monte Williams guy, Jordan Davis, and that Jinx, Jalen Hinks or whatever, that other rookie. Bryce Huff for a few minutes. So that was the reason why people like Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean had the years that they had. No shade to them because they were drafted pretty high and respectfully, but the reason why they had a stellar year is because of that forefront.
And Josh Sweat.
Oh yeah, Josh Sweat too. Yeah,
terrorized.
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes on Super Bowl Sunday, terrorized him.
Yeah,
and that's like you said.
Too.
Yeah, that also has a lot to do with the guys in the middle, the Carters and the Davises and the Milton Williams in the middle, and look, they decided they're going to do one-on-one with Sweat, and that didn't work.
Sweat was like, I should have been MVP. I could have been, but it's fine. We won a Super Bowl, but I could have been MVP. So
and you mentioned those guys, the DeJean and Mitchell and Darius Slay, right?
Yeah.
They were made to look like studs.
Yes.
And the thing to remember about Philadelphia's defense, an incredible defense, right? They were number one in just all the categories.
Yeah.
Go back and look at the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles defense. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible defense in 2023. They were at the bottom of the league in all categories. And what did they do? They brought in a new defensive coordinator. They drafted, as you mentioned, Mitchell and DeJean. They signed Zach Bond out of nobody ever heard of that dude.
No.
And they brought back CJ Johnson Gardner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And completely flipped.
Sure did.
So it can be done, Trev.
Yes,
you can go from worst to first.
Yes, you can.
In one off season.
Yes, you can. I mean, it happened to us on the opposite side of the ball.
That's exactly right.
So now we just got to do it to the defense side of the ball, and we'll be good.
And they didn't do it by going out and trading for or signing all the big names.
No.
They did it with savvy, smaller moves. Like we said, the Zach Bond move. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then drafting those guys, they took Quinyon Mitchell in the first round, late in the first round, because they were a good team last year, although they collapsed at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then if you remember, they traded up for DeJean. They traded up with Washington.
They did.
And Washington got Sanistril and Sinnot out of the deal.
Which is fine.
Yeah, but they targeted their guy, and they said, we want to move up to get that dude. And he turned out to be a heck of a player.
Sure did.
But it all works, I think, mostly because of that defensive line. And Jalen Carter and Davis and Williams and Sweat and Nolan Smith wreak havoc and make the guys on the back end make their job so much easier.
Yep.
That's what Washington's got to do.
Yeah, and it's got to be more than just one or two. Like, because we were just like Philly. Josh Sweat comes in. The rookie, is it Jalex Hunt or whatever?
I think it's Jalex Hunt. Yeah,
Jalex Hunt. He comes in, and then the guy named Monty Williams we've never heard before. He's gotten notoriety.
Milton
Williams.
Yeah, now he was a draft pick.
He was. See, I never even knew that.
Third rounder, and he's done pretty well.
So you got to get some depth up there too, because nobody expected Nakobe Dean to go down. He did, and what happened? Zach Bond came alive. Nolan Smith came alive. So it's like not only are there starter studs, but the reserves are studs too. So I'm telling you, the bulk of offseason should be looked in the trenches this year. It really, really should.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. But then when you look at the middle of the defense, so you're looking at, let's just say, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, and I mean, the way it's set up now, it was Noah Igbenogany as your inside slot corner. But I believe Sanistril will go back. And people said he did really well on the outside most of this year. But I don't think he's tall enough, and I don't think he's fast enough.
Yeah.
Game in and game out to do that.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be on the inside.
Yeah, there were some times where he got burnt on the outside.
Yeah.
But
he's not fast enough.
No. And no offense, but height is an issue because we got to see A.J. Brown twice a year. We got to see all these other receivers. CeeDee Lamb twice a year. Malik Neighbors twice a year. So he was known for his slot play in college, but he also, if he got asked to play outside, he did it. But that's college. And he did a great job at NFL too, but I want him to be more comfortable where he's more comfortable at, and that's in the slot.
Yeah. Yep. I would like to see that. I would like to see him back inside as well. And then you've got the Marshawn Lattimore question that, we've been debating. And let's not forget this about Marshawn Lattimore, that people tend to forget about this. First of all, they gave up a third rounder for him, right? A third and a like a pick swap for. No, it was third and a fourth in a pick swap.
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever it was. The big thing is they gave up a third rounder for him this year's draft.
Yeah.
And he makes $18 million a year, and he has 2 years left on his contract.
Okay.
His dead cap money, if they cut him, is what, Trev?
A lot. Oh, zero. Okay.
If they cut Marshawn Lattimore,
they won't.
They have zero dead cap money on him. They can just wipe it clean and pretend like it never happened, and you'll lose a third rounder.
Nope. Can't do it.
Can't do it? You believe that he's still got something left.
Yeah, man. His name is half of that. I mean, in a couple of games that he played for us, nobody even looked to the side of his field, let alone it was Spencer Rattler was one of them and someone else was another one. But his name puts fear in quarterbacks, let alone just by that itself. And he's coming off a hamstring injury, brand new system, brand new organization, try to get acclimated on the fly so we could get this playoff push going. Then he came back healthy. Then he had to sit out again with a hamstring. Then he came back. And yes, I know you had that stat where he allowed a lot of points this year on defensive players, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's our CB1 right now. You let him go, we don't have a CB1.
Fair.
We don't. And we keep crying about cornerbacks. I think you keep him for this year. Let him be acclimated with the entire offseason program with the Washington Commanders. Let the coaching staff see what his tendencies really are rather than what they've heard and what he's shown in the workout. And then if he's a bust by trade deadline or by this time next year, then you let him go. But you got to give the man a chance. I don't see them just wasting a third rounder like that because half the season he played for us like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's CB1. Just give him one more shot. Just give him another chance. Because when he was hurt, he was still leading in some like defensive cornerback categories. He was like top 3, top 5 still in like pass deflections or something like that. And he was barely playing last year. Yeah. So I think it's a great building block for the secondary to have to start with the foundation back there with Marshawn Lattimore and Mikey Sandistro, and then go from there.
Hey, and by the way, who is Marcus Lattimore? Because I sometimes say Marcus Lattimore, but who is Marcus?
He was that running back from South Carolina that had that horrific knee injury. Remember, he was really good.
Yeah.
He was going to be really good, and then
that's right. He was going to be awesome.
Happy, and then boom.
Because I say Marcus Lattimore every once in a while, and then I got to thinking, well, who the heck is Marcus? Marshawn Lattimore. I'm kind of on the fence about this as well. What I want to see, or what I don't want to happen, is that we go into training camp, and he's going to be the guy leading the peloton of the Ashburn Cycling Club.
Okay.
That's what I don't want to see in training camp.
Right, yeah.
The minute we go into training camp and he's always on the sidelines and he's always on the side field or he's on the bike or whatever, I won't have any tolerance for that.
Right.
Because you got a full off. Everybody says, give him a full off season, give him a full training camp with this new defense that he's on. And as a corner, I don't buy into that they need time to learn the defense. You're a corner. See that guy over there? Cover him. And I know I'm simplifying it, okay? I know it's not.
The communication aspect is probably the worst part.
There's a lot, there's different zones and there's different reads. And I know there's a lot more to it.
I know what you mean.
But he's not a quarterback where he has to learn everything, okay? He's a corner, and his job is to cover wide receivers. So just do that. Yeah. So you don't need a whole lot of time to integrate into an offense. So if you're going to have your entire offseason to get healthy, you better not start training camp on some sort of either like pup list or on the side field. That will draw my ire. Remember what I'm saying right now, Trev, because if that happens, I'm going to be ticked off.
Oh, I know.
Right? I mean, the whole thing is give him an off season to get healthy. Okay. I gave you an off season to get healthy. Don't come in here unhealthy.
Right. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. And then and And then if you go back to the offense, and you kind of said it already, Trev, is that the offense went from pathetic to awesome in one off season. And obviously, really because of one player, but also guys stepped up. McLaurin stepped up. Ertz stepped up. Even like Noah Brown stepped up, right? And so they were able to make that flip, but they still need to do some things on offense to maintain that or even get better, so that if your defense is struggling, you can beat Philly 36-33 or whatever that second game was.
Mm-hmm.
That the Philadelphia's only loss in their last 17 games, I think, right? They went 16-1 after their bye, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was when Washington had the shootout with them, 36-33, I believe was the score.
Yeah.
But you're going to need guys. You're going to need a number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
You're going to need a running back. I'm sorry. Brian B-Rob, great story. Did some good things. I've been saying it. You guys freaked out when in his rookie year, and I said he was a jag, and you yelled at me. You said, he got shot in the leg, Stoner. Right? But I just kind of noticed he does some things well.
He does.
But he's not a guy that's going to be dynamic in your offense, and they need to get dynamic.
Yeah, no one's game planning for the slot B-Rob.
Yeah.
Not a focal point.
And Eckler is good. He's under contract, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, good.
But he's good for what is asked of him, which is to be a third down back, to be a change of pace guy. Stop giving the ball to him, 20 times, like I think they did in 1 or 2 games.
That's why he left LA. He sasaid he didn't want to be the bell cow, and they wanted him to do that.
So I think all the things that we talked about and how to keep up with Philly, there are still so many things, Trev. There are a ton of issues. Issues makes it sound bad, but there are still a ton of things that they need to do to even get on close to Philly's level.
I know.
And the problem is Philadelphia is in your division. Yeah. If it's Detroit, you can say, we'll figure out how to beat Detroit when it gets to the playoffs in the divisional round or the NFC Championship. But Philly, you're going to get minimum twice a year.
Yeah.
And you're going to get them sometimes, like this year, 3 times a year.
Right.
And you got to figure out how to get past them or at least catch up to them.
Which is crazy because we beat them once this year with the team we had. So it's kind of like in the first game that we lost, it was relatively close for the most part, but you saw what we were lacking because of what they had, which is and you saw our biggest flaws when we went up against them in both games, all 3 games actually, no matter if we won one or not, was the running back in the trenches, O-line and defensive line. But we stayed with them 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah.
The NFC Championship game was just unbelievably wicked, but that's because Philly's defense was starting to come along as the season went on. So by the time it came to this, it was a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guys who've been there playing together already. We didn't. Outside Deron Payne, John Allen, and BSJ, no one really played with our defense, and we still held with Philly for the most part. So I don't want to, I guess, go all out and go crazy and be like, get 10 defensive linemen and 6 offensive linemen, and then we have money for like a low-tier wide receiver. I just want them to be really, really smart when it comes to the trenches and to filling out those holes. And I think that's how you keep up with Philly. Now, Philly has some tough decisions too. They have a lot of free agents on that defense this year.
Do they?
I think they do. I think
they only have 2. I think they have Sweat and Bond. I think that's it. Yeah. And I think offense, I think they only have Becton. That's it.
Oh,
man.
So yeah. Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Mekhi Becton, Isaiah Rodgers, Oren Burks, Kenny Gainwell, and Fred Johnson. So Zach Bond, Josh Sweat. So 4 starters are free agents.
Yeah. So most of those are backups, but yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not a 1-year wonder what they did this year.
Yeah.
They are built for the long haul.
It makes me sick that Jahan Dotson has a ring, bro.
I know, right? And he caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl, right?
It's just disgusting.
I know, right? And I think he had I don't know, did he have 15 catches all year? It's not
Something
like he tore it up over there.
No.
He wasn't very good. They're not happy with his production.
No.
So, but
he'll be gone after this year.
Yeah. So it's going to take a lot of work. And here's something as we kind of close this part out of the show. Just this part. Don't go anywhere. We got another whole segment coming up after this. But the one thing to think about for Washington, and I said this again earlier this year, and you guys thought I was crazy, but I stand by this, that I believe Washington will be better next year.
Yes.
But I think they'll have a worse record. I don't think they're going to have a bad record. I still think they can get to double digit, but I'm putting the cap at about 10 wins.
Oh, really?
They have a tough schedule, and not just because they're a second place team, but because of the divisions they're playing. They're playing the AFC West, i.e. the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers.
Okay.
And then they're also playing the NFC North, right, which is the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, all three in the playoff. And the Bears are going to be better with a new head coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, remember this is an unbalanced schedule, right? You have 17 games.
Yeah.
So every year you either have 9 home games or 9 away games. Well, this year they had 9 home games. So next year they got 9 away games.
And we have 8 home games this year.
And only 8 home games. So that's another thing that they're going to have to overcome. So I think they're going to be better, but they're going to have a worse record.
I don't know, man.
You're not buying it?
We play Seattle. We can beat Seattle. Chicago, I don't know. Depends on how Caleb Williams plays for real.
They're going to be better.
You think so?
But they're in a tough division, obviously, with Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay, all playoff teams.
Denver, that could be a shootout. That could be a fun game. We're about the same. The Raiders, we're going to beat the Raiders. I don't care if they draft Shedeur Sanders.
The Raiders stink.
I don't care. Yeah. And the Lions, they're going to be different. I don't think they're going to – now, that's a team I don't think is going to be as good as they have been the past couple of years. I think them losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson is really, really going to hurt them. It really, really is. Plus, they might lose some players. You know, everything happens. But so then you got Packers. Maybe. The Chiefs. Well, honestly, maybe.
Well, just look at it this way. When you look at just on the surface of the records of the teams that they're playing next year, what those teams' records were this year, I believe Washington has like the 3rd most difficult schedule.
I believe it. Let's see. Seattle was like, what, 9 wins? Denver was 9 wins. Detroit was double digits. Packers was double digits. Chiefs double digits. Chargers was what, 9 wins, 10 wins? Vikings was double digits. Falcons was not, and Miami's not. Yeah.
It's just going to be a more difficult path to the playoffs, but I think they're still going to be better.
Right.
But I also don't think they're going to do this whole, I hear this in a lot of places, and I heard it a bunch just today, that a lot of these so-called experts are saying Washington is going to they're going to go for it. They're going all in.
Right.
Right. They're going to do whatever it takes because they know they have their quarterback and he's on a rookie deal and it doesn't cost anything for them. So now's the time to strike. I don't believe that.
Right.
I believe that in the offseason, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn had and Lance Newmark, I want to put him in there as well. Mm-hmm. They had a very specific plan of how they wanted to build this team over the next 3 years of draft picks and free agency.
Right.
And just because Jayden Daniels was way better than they thought he was going to be, They thought he was going to be really good, but they didn't think he was going to be this good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to completely just wipe out their plan and say, let's go all in next year. I don't see it personally. I think they're going to stick to their plan.
I think when it comes to the draft, they're going to stick to their plan, and I think also maybe that plan's been altered a little bit, just because of how far we made it, and they saw what it took to win the whole thing, which was defense, the trenches, O-line,
Yeah.
D-line. But I think free agency, I think that's where they're going to be a little more aggressive than they were last year. I mean, last year it was just like, all right, we got this job. Now let's go get some people to fill this roster. And they did a great job with that because they had to make sure that they fit our and our mantra or whatever they have for the season. But I agree with you. I think draft, they'll follow their plan for the most part if they have to follow a plan. But I think free agency is where we're going to see the aggressiveness. I don't think we're going to go out and spend all the money, but I think we're going to get a couple of names like okay, people that we other teams have to game plan for. I do think that we're going to be aggressive in that situation. But the draft, I think that's the plan we'll stick to the most, because I think last year going into this season, they didn't expect, like you said, Jayden Daniels to be Rookie of the Year. They thought he'd, get us to like 7-8 wins. But nobody in that building, let's be realistic, thought they would get to the NFC Championship.
Right.
They probably didn't think that until 7-2. And then we hit that losing streak to be 7-5, and then we won the rest of the games. I think the feeling of, we could really do this went on as we were really doing it. So that's why I think that free agency will be more aggressive than the draft plan.
Okay. I mean, I can see that, but I also think that maybe Marshawn Lattimore's situation they're going to kind of look at that and say, you know what? Maybe we got a little over our skis here, right? They were like, okay, we're going to go for this CB1 because we have a chance to do something this year.
Right.
And it backfired a little bit. A little bit.
I think we would much rather sign him free agency rather than give up something for him. Don't you think?
Right, exactly.
I think we'd be speaking a different tune if we signed from the street and he had that performance. But like you said, we give up draft capital for him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's tough. But that's what happens when you have a good front office, because we don't have to really worry about it too much.
This is another thing for people to mark, but I'm going to say they're not going to have any big moves. They're not going to, no T. Higgins, no Myles Garrett, no, I don't know who are the other big free agent names out there. Yeah, Cooper. I don't think they're doing any of that. Now, Cooper Kupp, maybe.
No Myles Garrett?
No, I don't know.
2 first-rounders this year for Myles Garrett?
If I'm the GM, I'm doing it. But I don't think he's doing it. I think they're going to stick to that plan. And their plan is, we're not going to just go out there and just spend. They had more free agent money last year, and they barely spent any of it.
I know.
Because they're trying to build through the draft and fill in holes with some good free agents.
I think people want to come play for us, Stoner. So what if Myles wants to play for us?
No, you're right. You're right. There are guys there. You hear it everywhere that guys do want to come and play here, and that's great. Yeah. But Myles Garrett doesn't have a choice. He's a free agent. He's not. Yeah. He's under contract. You got to trade for him. But there are guys who may come here, but they're not going to take less money to come here. And I don't think Adam Peters is going to go out and just offer these big money deals for these guys.
You're right.
There's no doubt if T. Higgins is going to move on from Joe Burrow, he's not going to go and play with Aiden O'Connell in Vegas. Right? Unless
they give him the
Vegas
bag.
Gives him the bag. And I don't think Adam Peters is going to outbid a team that desperately needs T. Higgins.
Yeah. I believe that too.
And that's where I'm saying they're not going to jump in like that. They're going to make Frankie Louvu deals, right? They're going to make Tyler Biotish deals. They're going to make Dorrance Armstrong deals. Guys who are good players, who are young and up and coming players that the team needs in specific places. They're not going after that's just my opinion. I want them to go get Myles Garrett. I want them to go get T. Higgins. I wanted them to do what Houston did last year when they went out and got Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, right? Because they said, we're going for it. Yeah. And that didn't necessarily work out in the end, but they went for it. They went for it. Fans love that. All right, so let's move on from that. We know there's a long way to go to catch up to Philly, but let's talk a little bit. Maybe this is recency effect, but in the last segment of the show here in the cool down, we're going to talk about Jayden Daniels. And if you were starting a team today, based on everything is exactly the same, right? Would you rather start your team with Jayden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes? We're going to talk about that right here in the game. All right, look, it's a little bit crazy to talk like this, but it's recency effect. And we saw Mahomes kind of get steamrolled on the biggest stage this year. But in his 7 years as a starter, he's been to the Super Bowl 5 times.
Yeah.
And he's been to the 7 times.
Yeah.
So, but trying to put your bias aside for Jayden Daniels, if you were starting a team today, would you take
Stoner?
This one's on me. This one's I have a little bit of internet issues, but I don't know if you heard my question.
No.
The question is, and hopefully you can hear me, as I can see my internet's a little slow. I'm trying to get it. Should be better now.
Okay.
Trying to put your bias aside, and you're starting a team today. Would you take Jayden Daniels year 2 or Patrick Mahomes year 8? Which he's going
Mahomes year 8.
Yeah, I know it's hard to say that, right? But
no,
it's not for you.
No, that's a no-brainer. Only because of the accolades that Pat Mahomes has. He's been to 7 AFC championships, which is every year he's been in the league. He's already been to 5 Super Bowls, and he's won 3 of them. Like, that dude, his contract is ridiculous. He's ridiculous. He's played with teams ever since Tyreek Hill left and Kareem Hunt the first time around, ever since they broke up that band. Everybody, all the national pundits and experts have been like, oh, he can't do it. He doesn't have a receiver. He can't do it. He doesn't have a receiver. Oh, he can't do it. He doesn't have a receiver. And he's taking these can't do it teams because he doesn't have a receiver and taking them to the AFC Championship all 7 years. He's gotten aging veterans wanting to come play with them because that's their best shot of getting a ring, a la DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get a ring, but he went there to get one, and he had a really, really good shot at it. We've seen the Marquez Valdez-Scantlings go at it. We've seen Rashee Rice when healthy. They went and got Hollywood Brown. Who else? They had Tyreek Hill, lost him. They went and got Demarcus Robinson too, I think. Like, he's had so many different receivers.
Juju
Smith-Schuster. He's had all these receivers who've had their prime, had their shining moment in NFL, and he's taken them in, and they went to the AFC Championship. I mean, Pat Mahomes is great. Yeah, I know Jayden Daniels got watched a lot closer than beating, but Patrick Mahomes, for one, hadn't faced a defense like that all season long. Number 2, they were bound to they should have lost more than one game this season. They just kept escaping with luck. And number 3, all that luck and all the things that he was missing in the season and the things that were causing him to barely scrape by showed up in the Super Bowl against a team that he's never faced all season long. Let's be honest. Defense is a lot more physical and that in NFC is scarier in NFC than it's AFC. AFC has better quarterback play. NFC has better defensive play. AFC won the championship. NFC. But I'm taking Pat Mahomes times 100. I love Jayden Daniels. He's my quarterback for the future. He's my favorite player in the organization, yada, yada, yada. His time was coming, but Pat Mahomes has literally taken nothing and turned into something 7 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, this is not an anti-Jayden Daniels take on your part or my part, because I actually agree with you, Trev. We kind of take for granted what Patrick Mahomes has done over the course of these 7 years as a starter. The things that he does on the field, are we forgetting the wizardry that he has shown on the field?
Thank you.
Under pressure, his arm talent, his improvisation, his competitiveness. He has all of that.
Yep.
He's an incredible quarterback.
Yep.
We're stopping our talk about his comparison to Tom Brady as the greatest ever because of this particular game. And I think in the 2 Super Bowl losses, he's been blown out in both of those losses.
Yeah.
But we're debating him against the greatest of all time.
Right.
We're not talking about, is he the best now?
No.
We're talking about, is he the best ever?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're taking that for granted, and he's still in his prime. He's not aging. He's not starting to show some cracks in his armor.
Yeah, not at all.
Nothing. He's still at the absolute tip top of his game, even though this year might have been down a little bit numbers wise, but still had incredible numbers.
Right.
We have to take our biases out of it. But I agree that Jayden Daniels is the best young quarterback in the league by far. But I just don't think he's past the Mahomes level.
Not even close.
And if we're being honest, we're not taking him over Josh Allen.
Who?
We're not taking him over
no.
Lamar Jackson.
No.
But that's probably where it stops.
Joe Burrow.
I'm taking him over Joe Burrow. As great as Joe Burrow is,
I need almost 5,000 yards.
I need those legs, Trev. I need those legs, and Joe Burrow doesn't have it. He can get a couple runs here and there, but he's not dynamic getting out of the pocket. And I need that for my quarterback.
Okay.
And that's what Jayden Daniels does.
Makes sense.
But that's it. That's as far as I'm willing to go in terms of guys I would take over Jayden Daniels. There's only
I'm sorry.
3.
You put Tom Brady back there. You put Steve Young back there. You put Peyton Manning back there. You put Kurt Warner back there in that Super Bowl on Sunday. There was nothing Pat Mahomes could do. Okay?
Right.
You put Jayden Daniels back there. There's only so much scrambling he could do. It's just the offensive line just got wrecked, and it gave Pat Mahomes no time to do literally anything.
Yeah.
And that was the worst I've ever seen Pat Mahomes play. And to be honest, you put 10 more minutes on that clock. The score was 40-22. You put 10 more minutes on that clock, I think it would have been a game. Because I know it wasn't a game at all, but it was 34-0, and they won 40-22. I'm just saying, you put 10 more minutes on the clock, you have a game. Because that's what Pat Mahomes can do. We've seen it already. 13 seconds to get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And you're losing? We see it time after time again. So he was very, very capable of leading a comeback. But when you have a vaunted defensive line like the Philadelphia Eagles, man, you could put anybody back there, any goat back there, and the result probably would have been the same. So,
Jersey says I'm a little bit crazy, and I get it. And I think Warren makes a great point here. It's easy to take Pat because he's proven more, but JD5 will be better, and that very well may be true.
Yeah.
But I am taking the known quantity if I'm starting a team today. I'm taking the guy who has proven it year after year after year. But what Jayden Daniels did, let's kind of get away from anti Jayden talk to pro Jayden talk. But what he did with this team has never been done before in the history of the league as a rookie.
No.
And I think Locked On said it here earlier. Mahomes probably would not have, well, he didn't say probably. He said Mahomes would not have won 12 games with the team Jayden Daniels had. And he's probably right. I mean, Jayden Daniels did some amazing things with this team, and we have to be, incredibly fortunate, incredibly happy with our fortune that we have Jayden Daniels on this team, because we know it's not a fluke.
No.
Because it's not just the numbers. It's not just the wins. It's not just the
Stoner just left, so I'm stuck being the only one on the show right now. So I don't know what he was gonna end up saying, but I guess it was like, yeah, it's not just the way he did in the field. It's the poise he had off the field. It's the way he carries himself. It's the way he carries himself. It's the way he approaches the game. It's the way he approaches every day of work. So yes, I would. There is no anti-Jayden Daniels hit talk here, but hindsight, yeah, I'm definitely taking Mahomes over Daniels. Like, that's a no-brainer. It says on their J5 performances against the Eagles, he balled out. Now, he didn't have such a good game in the NFC Championship, but the whole team didn't. We just could not find a spark, couldn't find any momentum. We killed ourselves, which has been the MO of our season all year. But he did great against Philly. We brought us back to that win in the season against Philly. Yeah, I know that Kenny Pickett, but they still have Saquon Barkley, and Saquon doesn't play defense. And that same vaunted defense that destroyed Pat Mahomes, Jayden Daniels picked apart. So, to go back to our arms race, I don't think we're too far off of what Philly can do. Honestly, we just need some more bodies in the trenches, and I think we'll be okay. Obviously, that goes outside the obvious needs of offensive weapons again, but in order to be like Philly, which I don't want to be like Philly, but if that's the new standard, then we don't have that much work to do. But we definitely do have some work to do, but it's really not all that much if you think about it. I don't know what else to do, being the only person on the podcast right now. I know we're still live. Let me see if I have any updates with Stoner. He kind of just vanished. I think he's having technical difficulties too. It's one of those days. I got 9.5 inches of snow where I'm at in Virginia yesterday, so that could be affecting this right now, but I don't know. So here we are. I'm going to read some comments and see what you guys are talking about. Yeah, it was 46 with 3 minutes left, I know, but he still made it 22. I don't know. It's Pat Mahomes. It is what it is. Let's see what else. What other comments do we have? I'm freaking out because I've never been the host or by myself on the show, so bear with me. JD5 already has me as a believer, Warren. I believed in him ever since he won the Heisman in LSU. Didn't really follow him that much in college, but once he started getting to where, the draft was important and everything, I started paying attention, and I'm a believer in Jayden Daniels. I mean, look what he did. 12-5, rookie year, NFC Championship with a bunch of Jags. So we'll take it. Stoner can come back anytime now. Can we call this a Stoner? No, we cannot call that Lock on Law. Probably not. What do you guys think? And I know we'll probably talk about this all off season, especially until March. We have a month till free agency. What position do you think in the chat needs the most money spent on in this offseason? Is it wide receiver 2? Is it a cornerback? Is it an edge rusher? Is it a linebacker? Is it an offensive lineman? And you can be specific if you want to. Is it a tackle? Is it a slot cornerback? Is it a safety? Is it a free safety? Is it left guard? Is it a third down running back? Is it a fullback maybe? What do you think should be the most? What position do you think the most money should be spent on via free agency this year? So we've got 2 people saying edge, 1 saying O-line so far. For me, I'm going to say edge too. I think we really do need a premier edge pass rusher. We really haven't had one since Montez Sweat, since Ryan Kerrigan. I'm going to throw Chase Young in there. I don't know why. Maybe because he won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he was a really good pass rusher for his rookie year. But now he's turned to a journeyman. So there's that. And Montez Sweat, he was good for us too. But he got traded and never heard anything else about him being the Bear. So I see Stoner in the backstage. Looks like he's about to load up. I know he looks frustrated. I was frustrated with mine too. But I try to hold it down, Stoner. But we'll see what happens when keep going. He's telling me to keep going. Okay. I see there is 2 tackles we should go get, an edge and an offensive tackle. Our pass blocking was passable, but the run blocking was bad. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of people are saying edge rush and offensive lineman. I don't know the top free agents of any of those positions right now. So I have to take a look and see if I could see who in those positions we could target. But so far, it seems like a lot of teams are trying to trade players off, and a lot of players are requesting trades. I really don't, like I said, don't know who is on the market right now. So, but I agree. Go get a premier edge rusher. Spend a little money. We got the money to do it. Go get somebody that wants to play for us. Go get somebody that can set the tone for us. Go get somebody that other teams have to game plan for, have to acknowledge, have to put a little focus on. Yeah, I know you went out last season and spent a little money, and we went to the NFC Championship, but we can build on that. I think we have 29 free agents on our team, so we're gonna have to bring some of those guys back. We have to bring the core back, but yeah, go get you a premier name edge rusher. Go get you a premier offensive lineman guy if you need to, and then go from there. But what's up, Stoner? You back?
I know, bro.
Same. We'll be better next week, you guys. We promise. But it is what it is. But I went on from asking from the Daniels over Mahomes to asking what position should the most money be spent on via free agency. I asked the chat, and a lot of people in the chat are saying edge and offensive line. Where do you stand on that, Stoner? I know we're going to talk about that. We have a month to talk about it, but I didn't know what to do.
No, you're right. I agree. I believe that the edge is your number one priority, period.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, whether it's edge or corner or defensive tackle, you put the majority of your resources, like you said, if you're deciding how much money you want to spend, you go towards the defense. Because Jayden Daniels did what he did with a mediocre offensive skill players.
Mm-hmm.
So, and your defense was bad, and you made it to the NFC Championship. So fix the defense first.
Right.
And then you'll figure out what to do to fill in those spots on offense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that you should go – do you think you should get a premier name for that position, like a top name in the league, like somebody who will set the tone that other teams have to game plan for, that will change the whole attitude of the defense for the good? Or do you think it should be like, I don't know, a second-tier edge rusher, but we're paying him a lot of money because we know he's a grinder, he's a hard, but he's not as sexy of a name? What do you think?
No, you have to get a premier edge rusher. You can't settle for a Dorrance Armstrong or a Dante Fowler on the edge. You have to get a game wrecker. Mm-hmm. You have to get a game changer. Mm-hmm. Somebody that has to be game planned for. Somebody who demands double teams. Somebody who's not situational. He plays every down. And
can be the face of the defense, kind of, huh?
Yeah. So I'm going with I would do, if it's me, I would do anything to get Myles Garrett.
Right.
I would give you this year's first, next year's first, and I'll line up my entire roster.
Right.
Except for Jayden Daniels, and say you can have anybody. And I seriously mean that. You can have Frankie Louvu. You can have Sanistril. You can have, this is blasphemous. You can have Terry McLaurin. You can have every one of those. Myles Garrett is that guy.
Yes, he is.
He's that guy that I would do anything for other than my quarterback. I would
Right.
give 2 firsts and any player that they want to get Myles Garrett.
Yep.
He's just one of those guys who him and Max Crosby, and I don't really think Max Crosby is available, but he's just that guy that I would do just about anything for to get on my team. But I don't think they're going to do that, but that's what I would do.
Now, there's other guys out there, like you said, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, who led the league in sacks last year from Cincinnati. Would you make moves for them too if you can't land Myles Garrett? So you're going like sexiest name or bust is what you're pretty much saying, like Myles Garrett or bust?
No, Max Crosby is a different story.
Yeah.
He's a guy I would do that for as well. But Trey Hendrickson, I'm not. I understand he led the league in sacks. He was who was defensive player of the year? I don't even remember. Was he?
Patrick Surtain.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but I think he was maybe second or third or something. But I'm just not a Trey Hendrickson guy. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the times I've seen him play against the Commanders, he never really did a whole lot. But it seems like anytime I watch Max Crosby, anytime I watch Myles Garrett, they're just absolute game wreckers. So those are 2 guys I would do that for. But no, Trey Hendrickson, I would not. I'm out on him.
Are you going to spend a lot of – okay, so let's say – all right, scenario. We got Myles Garrett. We gave up 2 firsts and let's say –
Daron Payne.
Daron Payne. Yeah, perfect. Now, do you go spend a lot of money that you have in free agency on offensive linemen? Or now where do you spend the next most money, or I guess the most money after the trade? Where do you go?
Yeah, the next one after that is either a corner or it has to be a left tackle. And personally, I would move Brandon Coleman to right tackle.
Yeah.
And then I need to get a stud at left tackle as well.
Because
we have this debate about what position is the most important position on a football field. Obviously, number 1 is quarterback. And then we always battle what's more important, your left tackle or your edge rusher, who has to, do you want the left tackle who can stop the edge rusher, or do you want the edge rusher who can get around that left tackle?
Right.
And Washington needs a stud there at left tackle.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that Brandon Coleman is that guy. I think Brandon Coleman can be a guy for this team, but not the left tackle guy. And so they need that guy who can just lock down Trey Hendrickson or can lock down Micah Parsons in division and the Josh Sweats and the who's that guy for Thibodeau for the Giants and guys like that. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you do move Coleman to right tackle and get a left tackle who is a better protector for a mobile quarterback. I think Brandon Coleman is good, but I don't think the quarterback was that mobile at TCU. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was. But when you got somebody like Jayden Daniels, you're going to need a Trent Williams at your left tackle. You're going to need a Ronnie Stanley who's played with mobile quarterbacks. That's what I think. You need to find somebody who can hold their own against his edge rushers when the quarterback's running around for his life. You need somebody that could make sure he's still running. So I agree with you. Offensive tackle after edge rush. And then after that, you just fill in holes, right? Now, what about the running back position? Because that's another interesting one. Do you address that aggressively free agency, or are you going to go get one of these guys like an Ashton Genty or Gordon from Oklahoma State or anybody else in the draft? How do you address running back?
It's my understanding that it's a very, very deep draft of running backs.
Yeah.
So you don't need to go and pick a guy anywhere near the top 3 rounds. If you want to get a guy in the 4th round, you'll have my blessing. But otherwise, I mean, you do need that dynamic guy back there. But your most dynamic running back happens to also play quarterback. So I don't feel like it's as big a need as a lot of people think it is. I think it helps.
Yeah.
But your best running back happens to be your quarterback. So let's not worry so much about that. Because again, if you look at their rushing stats and metrics, they're all at the top of the league, and you had Brian Robinson back there. And that's because of Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
And you don't want to limit Jayden Daniels because his legs and his running ability is what makes him special, which puts him in that next tier of quarterbacks. So you want to continue to do what you were doing in the second half of the season when they kind of unleashed him and let him do what he does best.
But don't you think you still need somebody back there because that's also how you win football games in the league is a running game? And I know what you said about Jayden Daniels, but he's going to have to hand the ball off sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Lamar Jackson has Derrick Henry. Jalen Hurts has Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
So local quarterbacks still have a premier running back. I think you can get one like a Joe Mixon type level. I don't think you need to go out and go crazy and try for a Derrick Henry level or whatever. But I do think it needs to be somewhat of a serviceable guy back there, whether he is after free agency.
Look, for sure. But you can't fix every position in one offseason.
No, you can't.
You can't do it. You have to prioritize what's the most important things that you need to fix this offseason. And you've got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler under contract, both of them for one more year. And so you just probably want to stick with those two because you don't want to use up the valuable resources to upgrade that position. How much of an upgrade is a fourth rounder for Brian Robinson? How much upgrade is a who's the guy who left Dallas and went to like Tennessee? Tony Pollard?
Tony Pollard, yeah.
Right? Is Tony Pollard that much of an upgrade, for example, than what you already have there?
No, not really.
So maybe that's just something you don't address in this offseason.
Right.
And you stick with two guys who are already under contract and who do a good enough job. Mm-hmm. Because again, your best running back is your quarterback. So right now you don't need that to be addressed.
I'd be perfectly happy. I agree. And I'd be happy this offseason if they went and got the lesser name players, the grinders, the put the nose in the dirt, put the finger in the dirt and get it done rather than some flashy name. I wouldn't mind a couple flashy names, but after what we just showed what we could do with lower level names and lower level play.
We never heard of Frankie Louvu.
No.
Until he was signed here.
Right.
Right. I mean, this is a guy who's undrafted and didn't start for a couple of years in New York. And then went to Carolina and started to come up a little bit. But then all of a sudden it's like Frankie Louvu. And then now he's a superstar for this team.
Yep.
Guys like that. Yeah. That Tyler Biotish, you never heard of him. And then you signed him to be your center for the next few years. And you're like, oh my God, so glad that they did that. And you need more of that. More of those guys who are ready to make that next step.
Yep.
And they need to know that, obviously, as talent evaluators and as good as they are at it, they obviously have shown they know how to do that. So
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, that's the bigger overall point, right, Trev, is that this offseason is the most exciting and most hopeful we've been even more so than 2012, because in 2012, Robert had his injury that you didn't know if he was going to be the same guy, and it turns out he wasn't. But still, you're going in and you have so much hope and promise from the top all the way down to the bottom of your roster.
And bro, think about this is the worst this roster is going to look in for a very long time.
Yeah.
And look what we did. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's another thing to add to that.
But there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of change on this team as we talk.
That's what happens when you get a bunch of 60%, when you have a 60% roster turnover.
Absolutely.
And that's the sad part. Like, I saw a couple of interviews or whatever, like they all like are so happy about the brotherhood and this and that, but they know it's a business and they all formed to get this brotherhood, but now it's going to look so different next year, like you said.
Yep.
And that's the emotional part of this business, is when you get a group of random guys together, like they've been playing forever, and then you got to blow it up. So.
Yeah. And it's easy to have that brotherhood when you win, but you do have to establish that first.
Exactly.
And you know, is it Is it brotherhood and then you win, or is it win and then the brotherhood? They're just kind of partners in that, and it grows together to build into something that was super special. And it's not guaranteed. We have no idea what's going to happen next year with everything, but man, it's good to finally be excited about ownership, excited about coaching, excited about players, and especially excited about the quarterback situation, and that we really, really have something special. And I think I was saying this when my computer crashed on me there, but Jayden Daniels is not just proving it because they won football games and because he didn't turn the ball over and because he had a record number of rushing yards for a rookie quarterback and all that. He's doing it on every metric, in every analytic. It's not a fluke, is really what we need to come away with this, or from this. It's not a fluky season that he had.
Not at all.
It was earned, and it shows everywhere you look in all the numbers, from PFF to EPA stuff and ESPN stats,
All
and NFL Next Gen. All of it says he's on another level than most of the quarterbacks in the league. So, man, super excited. Trev?
Yes, sir.
Another fantastic show here on Ref the District on episode number 212. We will be back with more content throughout the week, not just on Wednesdays, but we are live every Wednesday on YouTube and Facebook, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we appreciate everybody who is in here. Fantastic chat, a lot of hot takes and a lot of great takes from everybody. We love getting all of that feedback from all of you who are here in the chat. And afterwards, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, or if you are listening on your favorite audio platform. We are part of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by Don't Sleep and Bet Online. And for Trev and for Nathan, I'm the Stoner. Trev, until next time.
Go get Myles Garrett.
Yes, please. Go get Myles Garrett. And also, be a fan.
Technical difficulties today.